right, party people, we are back. Episode 7. Siete indeed. There it is.
I did it.
Hey, guys, off air, he told me he is going to be going all the way to 100. So we're going to hold him to that. Is that right?
That's right. Because Ocho was my highest level of, speaking in Spanish. So this is going to be challenging. I'm learning just like you guys are.
There you go. We all growing. First off, guys, we just want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all the downloads, all the support. More countries are popping up on our stats.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
How are we in places I can't even pronounce? I didn't even know there was like a country.
It's very true. but they're listening.
Hey, I thank you guys, to be honest, because, when we first began, we envisioned it to grow, but not at the pace in which it has so far. So, I mean, I can't even begin to, how do you end up in France and Africa and, again, United States and Canada and Puerto Rico. You got to roll the R here, right? But thank you guys. Overwhelming amount of love. Whether you're liking, you're commenting, you're sharing, you're participating just in the community of Alpha Mentality. Again, we thank you so much. We really, really, really do.
It's all love, guys. All love.
It really is, man. It really is. So, episode 7. What's been like your favorite topic so far?
Probably IDGAF, just because of all the different points we're able to touch on that one. That one really, that was fun to film. And I think it was even funner because we look at the time when we're close to 40 minutes. As most of you guys know, we're trying to stay in a 30-minute time range. So when we get to 40, when we're trying to get to 35, 40, it's because it's something good and we're fired up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think that IDGAF was my favorite as well, too, because it was so much creation in that. Just having some fun, and that's what we want to do as a podcast, as a show. We want to be able to bring value to everybody so that you could be along on this ride with us. So here we are, episode number 7. Thank yous. We appreciate you. Mama, I did it. No, I'm just kidding. But so let's jump right into it today. So we're going to be talking a lot about a topic. So obviously what you're seeing is that we're giving you some core techniques and concepts just to have in your arsenal whenever you're approaching something, making sure that the mindset is correct. So today, on the basis of having the right mindset, I think everything has this origin, this precipice or beginning. And at the beginning is where a choice is to be had. So title this one today with Changing Starts with Choosing. So changing starts with choosing. So, Jeff, talk to him a little bit about how we came up with this idea, where we're going to be going. What is, making a choice? What does that mean for you?
It's just very simple, right? The title says it all. In order to change, you need to make a choice, which is honestly one of the hardest things to do when you really sit back and think about it, which is why we get stuck in this place sometimes in our life where like, well, I want to change, but I can't. Well, you can't because we haven't made the choice. So it all kind of plays back to it. And we're going to kind of give you guys not so much solutions, but ideas to think about, things to ponder on, and kind of ask yourself, well, maybe that does kind of relate to me. Maybe that's why I haven't been able to change. I haven't actually made the choice to do so. So I think it's going to be a great episode. We're going to bring you guys a lot of value.
It's so true because, again, you just referenced going to the gym. January 1st, everyone's New Year resolution is to lose weight. But here comes February 1st. There's nobody there. So there was a choice that went into that, which is, choosing to have a New Year's resolution, lose weight, have a better lifestyle. But in everything, there's 2 C's of my life. One is choosing. The other one is changing. Okay, so again, write that down because we're about to dive into this topic. More importantly, because choices, they shape your life far more than circumstances do. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree.
Okay, so what do you say to somebody who has grown up and had that the riddle story of I came from this and I came to that? You take a professional athlete, for instance. Most of them, they come, probably a good 90% of them, they come from not so good circumstances and they made it out. How is it that, everybody that comes from that situation or anybody that's been through something bad doesn't have that jackpot at the end of the rainbow?
Well, I mean, I think the people that come from that situation, they hate it so much, the situation there is, that they'll do anything they can to get out of it, right? What you don't hate, you end up tolerating.
Ooh, Malcolm X.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where you got to fight for it. So I think that's why a lot of people that make that choice to change, it's because they want to see the change. So they have to make that tough choice.
Yeah. So what do you think about this? What do you think about people who say that they're a product of their past?
It applies to some people. I don't think it applies to everybody, though. I mean, for example, for me, it applies to me, right? Because I see my upbringing. I think it definitely shaped who I am
Yeah.
now, right? But on the opposite side, let's say I didn't have the same upbringing. I don't know where my life would be. I don't know if I'd be one of those people where it'd be like, okay, well, I need to make a change. I don't know where I would fall on that spectrum. So you really have to ask someone that's in that situation or that's done that, like, hey, why did that help you, or how did it help you, or how did it shape you? Because I think everyone's mind is different and we're all going through different things.
Okay, so if we're staying on topic and we're talking about changing starts with choosing,
Hmm.
a few things that we jotted down and I think that has some paramount importance. So if you make good choices, you're going to reap good benefits. Kind of common sense stuff.
Right.
But also the part that's not so common and we think common sense should make sense is that when you make bad choices, you're going to reap bad benefits. So the differentiator today is to help everybody in making choices and give you something to think about. Okay. So something to think about. So how do we get to this point right here? Let's draw the line and start, taking some notes or, just kind of just thinking about the process of this. Okay. So what you think about the choices that you have
Hmm.
is typically governed by what we know as our identity. Most of us we think it's that little voice in our head, and it is. Some of us, the spiritual, we're thinking about, is this a certain spirit talking to me? Is this the Holy Spirit guiding me, or something like that? But that's identify what your identity is, and some true core things, right? So your identity is the core part of our lives that it handles the concepts, the beliefs, and the things that we find most truthful about ourselves. So, what would you say to the identity of the audience that's listening right now, and they want to make a shift, but they don't know where their identity is? How do you help them identify that?
They need to first identify what it is that they're thinking about constantly each and every day. When you wake up, what's your first thought that comes to your mind? Is it good? Is it negative? Is it toward your goal? Is it toward, are you reacting or are you being proactive? Is the day running you? Or are you running your day?
Mm.
Those little things right there are going to kind of let you know what your identity currently is.
That's good. That's good. So there's two references that come to me. I'm a Bible believing guy,
Hmm.
and God firmly speaks on these things. There's two verses, but I'm not going to go over them. But God says, "I will change your life when you allow me to help you change the way that you think." Okay, so again, for us to have that ability to start, making that change with making a choice, here's something that I want us to all be very cognizant of. So to reset and transform your life, first you need to work on your mindset. Most of us we think that you think about somebody like Steph Curry. I'm using him. He's going to
Hmm.
the finals right now. And Steph Curry is probably the smallest guy on the court.
Yep.
Okay. So most people think, okay, I have to get stronger. I have to, go and do more work in the gym. And although that's very necessary, there's something that happens before then.
It's the belief.
It is. It's the belief.
Hmm.
It's his mindset. He has to say, you know what? I feel like I deserve more. Again, if your identity is the thing that shapes your beliefs, then you have to surely understand where that comes from. So belief is very important, right? In fact, a change of location or
Hmm.
scenery, you can go on vacation, but if you take that same you with you and you haven't changed, your paradise on what you want to become or the thought of becoming successful, it still remains hell. How do you feel about that?
I think it's absolutely, absolutely true. It's also one of the reasons why they say, right, one of the greatest life hacks you can do is moving out of your town. Why? Because you have new surroundings. You might have new associations, new people around you. Everything's different. You're not stuck in that same mindset. It just creates a different,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't say aroma, but atmosphere for you, right? It's just
Oh
new.
yeah.
You get a chance to just start fresh, which is why it helps a lot of people. It's the same reason why when you guys go to big events, I don't know how many of you guys go to conferences. We're going to go to a conference, right? A nice convention.
Vegas.
It's in Vegas,
Yep.
right? Different change of scenery for us. Why? Because big things happen when you change your scenery.
That's very true. In fact, that's why they take you. You notice if you ever known of somebody to go to jail, they don't go in the town or the
Hmm.
city. They go somewhere very far because it's the rehabilitation of the mind. You see, they work with the mind because 90% of everything is mindset. 10% of everything is skill set. So the things that we want to point out is three reasons you have to start in your mind. And again, we want you to be able to hold us to a court of public opinion, and your job today is to hold us guilty or to hold us innocent. of what we're saying, if it's true or if it's false, right? So these three reasons you have to start, not with just, the skill. So, right now you're practicing, maybe you didn't get the instruction manual to be a better parent, you
Hmm.
know?
None
Uh,
of us do.
yeah, well, my wife's incredible. She is an incredible parent. I mean, she had such a big worry, but she just shifted. God gave us that. But maybe right now you're starting a new job
Hmm.
and you want to climb that ladder to success. Again, a lot of that doesn't have to deal with skill set. A lot of it has to do with the perception and the identity of yourself. But before you do that, you have to do the work first. You got to do the work in the mind. Again, from somebody who's been in an entrepreneurial role for the last 7 years, sure, there's a lot of things that I can tune up, but it all starts with the mind and how you see yourself. So let's dig into the first one. So,
Let's do it.
first one, agree or disagree. Jeff, our thoughts, they tend to govern our lives because many wise men and philosophers agree about the power of thought. Okay, so here's the statement. The Bible tells us that a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And there's a famous guy, I don't know, he's a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, concluded that we become what we think about. What are your thoughts on that?
100% agree. 100% agree. Any person that you speak about, anyone, any great person, they'll tell you have to envision things, right? We talk about this all the time, envisioning the win, but it's just so much more than that. It doesn't even have to be a vision, right? A win, excuse me. It's what you envision in your mind. I am this. You tell yourself enough times, your mind is going to believe it. So if you're saying it, you're going to believe it. If you want something, start thinking about it in your mind. Your mind will start working on ways to make that come true.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's so good because it works for both
It
ways.
does.
It works
It
both
does.
ways. Again, if you're in your mind for the negative, guess what you're gonna
Hmm.
get? If you say, "Oh, I just, God, I just pray for getting my bills paid." Well, guess what? You're completely lowering the ceiling on possibilities of your life. But on the flip side of things is that if you have a thought that tends to govern your life, then if you check that thought and you start to project a bit higher, again, most people have this effectiveness on just thinking where they are. But if you can get this magic of thinking larger than where you are, guess what's going to happen? Results, baby. It's just gonna start flourishing in your life.
Yeah, it really
So
is.
the first thing, again, keeping that mind in mind is so important, right? So second reason why you have to start in your mind is because my struggles happen in my mind. Every struggle that you have is going to happen. It's going to come in your mind first.
It does.
Numero uno. And then every second of my life there is a battle in my brain. So, I tell myself often, I have these, if you're in a relationship, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, is you'll have these fake wars with your significant other. You will. You'll be thinking like, "Ooh, I would," like you may wake up in a bad mood one day, and you may be saying, "Ooh, you be playing these different case scenarios. Oh, yeah, if they don't wash the dishes today gonna be the day." Like, ooh, or you go get ready to go to work or go to the office, and you like, man, you know what? 91 to 405, man, let it go down today. Let it go down today. Let it go down today, right? So again, the battles that first happen, they occur in our mind first. So Jeff, we talk about habits.
Mhm.
What are some areas on where we can change our habits or change our ending by working on our beginning?
I think the way you start your day changes everything. I think when I used to be a teacher, my days were very yeah. I wouldn't do much. I'd wake up, change, go to work, and that was that. Now that I have all this time in the world, right? Wake up, go work out. You know, read my affirmations, things that I never thought before. But why? Because I know it's a mindset thing. Start your day out positive. I'm gonna have more positive thoughts. I'm gonna have more positive outcomes. So I think starting your day right will set you up for the rest of the day. Most people just they don't do anything. Their morning is a drag. They start their day hating life. Oh, I have to go to this job. I mean,
TGIM.
yeah. So it's kind of one of those things where it's no wonder they're kind of in a ticky mood. And then what's their solution? I need to get some coffee. You realize the coffee doesn't do much. It's a mindset thing.
You put me in the mind of what Napoleon Hill states. He says, where attention goes,
Mm.
energy flows, and then results show. And your attention to your attitude in the morning, your attention to your habit. Most of us, we have a routine. Our minds are pretty hardwired. Most of us have the same routine. So we'll get in there. If you're in the shower, I'm going to say, and you'll get in there and you're right-handed. You may start washing, with your right hand, or some of us, we start certain habits the same way. We wash our hair and we work our way down.
Mhm.
I dare you to change that.
That's so hard.
I dare you to change that. Because if you do change that, there's a habit. There's a habit that's being broken,
I was just gonna say that.
and it's an opportunity.
You
as
hit it
well.
right on the head. So the book that I'm reading, right, Atomic Habits, it literally talks about that. The only way that you can change a habit is that the habit that's currently unconscious has to become conscious. So you
Mm,
have to focus on the habit that you want to break. Start flipping the habit. Even if you have to say it out loud, you have to start saying the habit, make your mind work for it. That's how you can break a habit and create a new one.
that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. So point two is because my struggles, they happen in our mind. Our battles, that's exactly where they begin.
Mhm.
Most of us don't have success because we don't know how to control the 6 inches in between our ears. Okay.
Yeah.
Most of us don't. So the third reason why you have to start in your mind is because this is for all my faith believing people, okay? Whether you believe in Jesus, whether you believe in Buddha, Muhammad, whoever it is that you believe in, lamp god, sun god, doesn't matter, okay? Here's what you got to understand. This is the reason why. It's because where God's spirit works in me, okay? It's because where God's spirit works in me. So listen to this. It's where the reset takes place. So in a word that I read, I'm not going to go to the particular passage. It's in Ephesians 42. I'm sorry, 4:23-24. But
I'm not gonna go into the passion though, right?
so it says this. It says, when the opposition introduces a thought in your mind, it's temptation.
Mhm.
But when God introduces a thought in your mind, it's inspiration. Two big differences. But the identifier is what is good for you, what is bad for you. So all good things come from the higher power. All bad things, I guess we can kind of take, place with that. So identifying that. Let's talk about, how do you get to a place where you identify? Is there something, maybe an exercise that you can walk through just personally, or maybe an area where you've corrected yourself in terms of you just having a reset and just, in your own mind?
You're talking about like if I get a certain thought.
Yeah.
I think it's always important to ask yourself, does it serve me or does it hurt me? I think I do that a lot, right? I'm a very cautious person. So whenever a thought comes to mind, or if let's say an opportunity comes, obviously the thought has to flourish in your head. Can you envision what it can become? Is it going to serve me? Is it going to distract me? Is it going to hurt me? All those thoughts are kind of playing in your mind. Um, so I think that's my way of going about it. It's just really asking myself, what are the pros and cons? How do they outweigh each other? Because all that essentially is in your mind. You're kind of envisioning what's the good, what's the bad before it even happens.
That's true. Warren Buffett has that 5 by 5 rule.
Mhm.
If it's not going to affect me 5 years from now, don't spend more than five
Five
minutes
minutes.
on it.
Yep.
Right. So that I've heard that been done before. One of the ways that I deal with things is that I look for inspiration
Okay.
in anything,
How
because,
so?
well, I mean, they say for every negative there's a positive, but that's an adverse effect as well too.
Yep.
So
I
if
see that.
there is a negative, a positive, for again, they work hand in hand. So I look for inspiration in things. So things may be going bad, and I look for something in it to just inspire me. And the reason why I do that is because the base word of inspiration is in spirit. So if I'm working in spirit, then I know that I'm willing, a win in my life. But if I'm working in flesh, and if I'm working in carnal things in the world, then I'm working in the desires of what, is instant for me
Hmm.
versus the
Hmm.
the delayed gratifying things of my life. So I try to find ways to find inspiration, because I can break that down and say to myself, you know what? I can get to that point where I say, does that work? Is I calculate it. Does it work for me here? Or what's the risk? What's the reward?
Right.
I like to work in spirit because, again, spirit is willing, flesh is weak.
Always.
So
Mm.
that's you getting me fired up, by the way.
Always.
Here, by the way. So so three reasons why you have to start in your mind. Hopefully we've accomplished a bit of that, but I want to move on to more tangible things that we can use in terms of technique. Okay, so
Love it.
again, let me start from let me bring it back, and then kind of catch us up. So changing starts with choosing.
Hmm.
So if you're making choices right now, I'm sorry, if you want to make a change, then you have to make a choice. All right. Now, I don't mean the ultimatum choice. I just mean, if you want to become a better, person in your faith, in your family life, maybe you got, time, and you're trying to create that work balance life, or Maybe you're trying to get better in your finances, or maybe you're trying to lose, a few pounds like me in your fitness. But in all seriousness, again, this all starts with a choice. So we
One
just gave you
choice.
the things that start, 3 reasons why you have to start here. So when you start in here, let's talk about the habits now.
Hmm.
So let's go into the 3 reasons. I'm sorry, 3 choices that on a daily basis that I think are absolutely, like, without a doubt, like you have to do these things, or you have to get very good at practicing them. So let me start with the first one.
Hit me.
Every day, I must choose to feed my mind with the best thoughts.
Hmm.
How much do you allow in your mind? Okay. And here's the reason why we got this point here. You could tell a lot about somebody's physical health and their mental health based on what they ingest.
Yeah.
Okay. Garbage in, garbage out. Are you being wise? Or are you being foolish with that habit on a daily basis? How do you respond to that in terms of, what you feed your mind with? Talk to us about the importance of that.
I think it's so important because whatever's coming into your mind is ultimately who you become. It's what shapes your identity. It's the same reason why I'm always reading books. I mean, I think we've said it before on the podcast. If you want to hide something, you put it in a book because most people won't open one. So success leaves clues. I'm going to search and book because I know, one, it's going to raise my identity. I'm trying to grow. Obviously, we're doing this podcast. One of the things we mentioned on the first episode, right, was we want to grow with you. So you guys are going to see our evolution from episode 1 to episode 100. We can't grow. We can't tell you guys things if we're not reading. If you guys haven't noticed, most of the things we talk about come from books.
Yeah.
It comes from the stuff that we've learned from others, things that we've learned from, our firm, right?
Yep.
Things that it's all stuff that we're regurgitating, but that we've kind of put our own little spin on because we've taken it in, digested it, and now we're spitting it back out to you guys in our own way of thinking it, just to really help you guys out. So I think that's the biggest thing. Always growing, learning, reading, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and if you can't start there, if you can't start with, putting these things in your mind, chances are you may be suffering from excuse-itis,
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about with IGAF. And one of the common causes of that is that you start to victimize and you start to feel helplessness in your life. And a way to cure that, if you want to become, if you want to get out of that state, you have to find a way to find the antidote of being more helpful. Because again, when you're more helpful, you can start affecting more people.
You can.
You can start doing more for a difference of your life, leaving your legacy, leaving an imprint for those who come behind you or those that you attempt to run into.
It's crazy that you mentioned that because I think, more of the people that I actually mentor and coach, they actually know that I read now. So they always tell me, like, hey, what book do you recommend? I used to be the one that used to ask that. Like, hey, what book do you recommend? I would read them. Now people ask me, and it's just like, dude, like, what served me now, I get to pass on to others, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Well, it's reach one, teach one, man.
Yeah, it
That's a
really
part
is.
of our community as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a part of what we do. And again, that's the whole thought behind the thought process behind the podcast
All right.
as well, too. So again, that's the first choice is what are you feeding yourself? If you expect to have, you know, 10% body fat, then don't go eating Twinkies and ho-hos and bonbons
I gotta stop.
and expect, like you can't do that. Right now I'm on a weight loss journey because I wanna bulk up. Not bulk, I want to shred a little bit. But I have to watch what I eat.
Mhm.
I have meal prep and got to count my calories and things like that. But again, I'm very clear. I'm very specific on the things that go in me. So, but on the flip side, if I defiled my lifestyle or what I'm trying to accomplish by putting bad things in, then bad things will come out. Again, we mentioned it earlier. Reaping and sowing of good and bad seeds. So that's one of the choices you have to monitor on a daily basis. The second thing is, am I feeding my soul with the right words on a daily basis? So I know the last point was talking about, a little along the lines of reading, but on this point, it's, are you feeding your soul with the right word daily? The right word. What is the right word to somebody who does not know what they want to do, but they are aspiring to be bigger and better and badder than ever? What's some of the right words or some of the right things that they can start saying or mentioning to themselves?
Something encouraging. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people lack is encouragement. One of the things that they lack is praise, recognition. It's the stuff that they don't get at their 9 to 5, let's say, for example, right? When was the last time, think about it, when was the last time your boss told you, hey, I appreciate the work you're doing, just for no reason? It rarely happens. So I think starting to tell yourself, hey, you're a little better, because let's flip it, right? The people that are very negative about themselves is because they see themselves in a lower light. You tell yourself that over and over again, you're going to tend to believe it, which ends up squashing your confidence. As opposed to, if you start telling yourself more positive things, more encouraging things every single day, feeding your soul, you're going to start to believe it, and you're going to start feeling a little better bit about yourself, and it's going to take off from there.
That's so good. Um, again, the words have power,
They do.
and they're mightier than a sword that can cut you. Because again, by design, what words do is that they can uplift you, they can encourage you, they can praise you in the right ways, and they can
Yeah.
recognize you. And to your point, having a boss, probably the last time most of us listening to this podcast, if you're employed right now, the last time you got any recognition is when you did something wrong. So the right word on a daily basis could be in spirit, inspiring, speaking, good things to yourself, or getting around the people who speak a different language than the one that you do. It's so crucial.
Let's stop right there. What do you mean speak a different language?
Well, there's some people speak Crocanese, a bunch of croc, and they just speak it so fluently. And when you tell yourself something so often, you can believe it.
Exactly.
But here's the difference, though. Here's how you can identify a change: is that if you get around somebody that's doing better than you, and you start listening to them, and it sounds like a different language, right? And like you can feel something internally,
Fires you up.
right? It fires you up. You can feel a spirit. You can feel what's called the gut feeling, right? You get that little flinch. Chances are you need to attach yourself to that person or that conversation or that association of person.
Yep.
So again, I found myself to be freeing from that, from the ways that I used to think, because I started manifesting and using these different thought processes. So the third thing is, are you becoming a disciple of what you're chasing? Are you becoming a product? So, you take, for instance, I just watched this fight the other day by this guy, Tank, what's his name? Javante Davis. And he's being mentored and coached by Floyd Mayweather. And he's recognized by probably one of the greatest fighters, if not the greatest fighter of all time. And he has become a product of what he's been around. So for me, it's about being in the chase. I'm always in the chase. I'm always trying to become a disciple of what I'm trying to become. I don't like to just be in this space of preach. I like to be in this space of how is what I'm doing, my action, how is it showing up in other people's lives that I'm helping? Like this podcast. How am I doing that? And then my real point to this is a habit. Just speak it on habit. And I really want you to take over right here, because this is something that we talk about often, is a choice that we need to make daily. Does my social media intake, does it create freedom or frustration?
It really depends what you're following, right? It's everything. I think social media it's a great tool, but it can also hurt a lot of people.
In what way? So like, give us an example where that works for you, and one where it works against you.
Okay, let's say, for example, you're already a person that you lack a little confidence, and you're following supermodels, whether you're a guy or a girl or whatever. You're going to compare yourself to that, and you're going to start pointing out the flaws. Well, they have this, I don't have that, right? So it started messing with you, as opposed to, let's say, for example, that's what you're aspiring to be. Okay, well, now I have a goal. Well, I need to get like this, so I'm going to start doing it, and you start bringing yourself up. Another example, right? People that are entrepreneurs. A lot of people have become millionaires because of social media. It's free advertisement. If you use it right, it's going to do wonders for you. I know it did. It blew up our dog training business. It wasn't for social media, we'd have no business. But I used it for that specific reason. I use it as a tool versus a time waster. Most people don't see the value of it. They're using to scroll by and just gossip, news, things of that nature. So it's really how you spend your time and what habit you're using. Is it serving you or is it hurting you? You choose.
That's good. That's really good. The destruction of that, just social media. I mean, so many people, tools can be used for good and bad things.
Yeah, they can.
A hammer can be used to build something, but it can also be used to tear something down.
Indeed.
Social media is one of those. For sure, right? So
Hmm.
let's get ready to land the plane here because
We're
again,
landing.
we went over changing starts with choosing. We talked about 3 reasons where you start, which is in your mind. And then we talked about when you're in your mind, the habits to create in your mind. But you also have to be aware if there's some good in your life, there's going to be some bad.
Hmm.
So there's 3 enemies that you got to identify. Number 1 is your old nature. Your old nature,
Hmm.
it wants to think the wrong thoughts. So the old version of you is always wanting to go back. Our lives, when we get good, we're like rubber bands, right? When we expand, man, things are going good, but we seldomly contract if we're not continuously being pulled in the right areas. And we'll go right back to our original form at some point. So our first one is your old nature. Has there been any time, even recently, where you've wanted to retract? I don't want to call it go back to the old version of you, but is there some old habit in you that just won't die as easily?
I don't know. I don't know. There's an old habit that won't die, but old thoughts, I guess you could say, come back. Um, which is, it's a different mindset that I'm in now. I think a lot more. Okay, I mean, I'll give you an example. I think when sometimes I find myself chilling a little too much.
Mm,
That's an old habit. That's an old me, which I find myself now. I work a lot more than I used to before. You would think when you're an employee, you work more. No, when you become an entrepreneur, you work way more. Like
way
there
more.
there is no off time. But there was a point in time, maybe I would say in the last like month, where I found myself like watching a little too much like TV, and I was like, okay, this got to cut back. And then I started getting back on the computer and started going back to work. So I did find that for a little bit. So yeah, you can say I think it creeps in all of us, but it's up to us to kind of snap ourselves out of it. If you don't, you'll find yourself really drifting back down that road.
You really bring me to another question because like how cognizant are you of those things? Like how can you catch those?
Well, I think you catch it because your new identity has been already formed. So you start figuring out and you start realizing like something feels off. Yes, this is how I used to be, but the new identity is like, dude, you're wasting time. Like I feel impatient, I feel antsy. Like I could be doing something so much more productive than just sitting here. Versus the old me, hey, this is life. Let's just watch some TV. You know?
Yeah, you're a product of your past, but you're not a prisoner of your past.
Mm,
The reason why you got free is the reason why you need to remain free. Okay,
bingo.
because the person who worked very hard to get 5-10% body fat, or break a drug habit addiction, or just one of those really bad ones that are not good for you in terms of addiction. That is the reason why you need to set yourself free and continuously
Growth.
have that that internal alarm that just continues to go off. So first habit is again, the old you wants to pull back.
Always.
The old you is saying, yo, things are getting too hot in life. They're getting too good. We need to bring this thing on back.
You basically have to grow so far that the new you does not recognize the old you.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. The second point, I really want to take this one because again, as I'm a Christian man, I think it's so important that people understand whether or not what you believe in. I think that this is so important. The second enemy is the enemy, it's himself, right? Some of us call him the devil, some of us call him Satan, some of them call him he a op, right? Back where I'm from. That's the opposition for y'all if y'all don't get that. And the enemy has one main thing to do. Well, a few things. It's to kill, steal, destroy, divide. So when there's good that's multiplying, the enemy wants to subtract from your life. It's very simple. He wants to subtract from your life. So you have to identify them. And again, going back to those words, you have to speak good words every single day because there's something that's looming around you that wants you to pull back and say, nah, you know what? This ain't for you.
Today's not the day.
It's not the day.
Mm-hmm.
We had some technical difficulties with getting together, this show where, listen, it took us like 3 hours to get together because I felt like the enemy was like, no, you're not going to create this show. And for whatever reason, hopefully will affect one of you. But here's the deal is that because we speak so much life that we said, you know what? Instead of the idea of doing this and, it's going to take us, 30, 40 minutes, it's taking us the better part of 3 hours.
It
But we
really has.
identified that there was an opposition there.
There was something stopping us.
There was,
Yeah, there
right?
really was. Yeah.
But there was a seed of greatness in that adversity. That's why we turned this around. And we actually had a chance to lengthen the conversation here today. So the third thing, and I'll land the plane here.
Land it.
Last enemy is this world that we live in, the value system.
Hmm.
The value system of the world that we live in. You kind of mentioned it earlier. Some of us, we live for likes.
Hmm.
We're defined by comments. We're celebrated, and social media is like the bathroom wall now. And everybody lives for the recognition of that. Although it's a powerful tool and it's so meaningful, we cannot lose fact that the world has a value system that if you don't understand you'll get lost in it.
Hmm.
Okay, you'll get lost in what the world perceptually says is good or what is bad,
Mhm.
right? So how do you weigh in on that?
You have to figure out what you value. When you figure out what you value, only you can ultimately bring the ultimate happiness out of yourself. The ultimate potential lies within you. If you can't figure that out for yourself, you're gonna live too much on the opinions of others. Living on the opinions of others is what causes so many people to be in their own head, to not fulfill their potential. Why? Because they're listening to what everyone else is saying. It's whatever. Well, the only thing that matters is what you think. Whatever you want, whatever you know, hey, this is exactly what I want. Go out and achieve it then, because only you know what you value.
Make your mind up.
Yep.
Nothing more powerful than a made up mind. How do you mind your mind? How do you think about what you think about?
Mm.
Mentor of mine told me that, and I went, what? But then when I went into deep thought meditation, when I went into a much bigger picture of what I was trying to accomplish, things just became so much easier. That doesn't mean we're not met with opposition. We are on a daily basis. But it's again, we mind our thoughts. We mind what we think about, the directions in which we can be taken. It's very easy to drift. Most people become drifters of this world, and we just don't fall for that particular bait. And hopefully, listening to this show today, that there's been some hope restored in your life. That right now you're listening and you saying, you know what? I was really dealing with the difficulties on how to make a choice, how to make a decision, how to, improve my life, how to understand that I could take my life from dud and go straight to stud.
Mm.
And the reasons behind that, the reasons why all of these things they hold you up is the main reasons why you got to push forward. Like we want to give you this so that you can use this as the bait for your life, so you can go out and make the differences that you need to, right? Because whatever you flirt with, you're going to fall for. So be mindful of the things that are in front of you that want to do you harm, that want to hold you back, right? And be mindful on how to protect your thoughts because again, as a man thinketh, so he is. So I'm landing my side of the plane there. I got the right wing, you got the left wing.
I
Landed for
mean,
us
this
over
is
there.
just kind of a mic drop at that point. But guys, we hope that brought you some value. And remember, you got to make a choice. If you want change, make the choice today. But we appreciate all the love so far. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow, like, comment on the Alpha Mentality Podcast on the Instagram. Send us your suggestions. Love. Peace.